It's a sunny July 9th, 2020. It's 6:28 in the morning, and you're looking at Nassau Tower in Mineola. Here comes train 503 down from Oyster Bay, heading for Penn Station, New York. And that was train 1608 en route from New York to Huntington by Nassau Tower at 6:31. Gonna do something today that I've never done on YouTube. Capture the morning rush hour at Mineola. And it's important to come here today. As of Saturday, the day after tomorrow, July 11th at 10 a.m., Nassau Tower will no longer be a manned interlocking. It'll be remotely controlled from Jamaica Control Center at that time. So I wanted to capture one of the last days of this tower being a manned interlocking. I was going to come tomorrow, which will be the official last day, but we're expecting foul weather. Rumor has it that this tower is an endangered species. It's not structurally sound. It may be torn down very soon. In fact, this weekend, they're going to be shutting down the main line to do bridge replacement over New Hyde Park Road. And rumor has it that maybe during that shutdown, they might start to dismantle this building. So I definitely had to come here at this point. And this is train 1203 from Hicksville to New York at 6:37. Lots of cable strung all over on the south side of the right-of-way. This might be part of the electronics for remoting this into Nassau interlocking. No longer an interlocking station as of 10:01 a.m. on Saturday, July 11th. Unusual sun angles I have to deal with for this rush hour. I'm used to the PM rush hour. At 6:41, this is train 1617 from Huntington to New York. And pulling eastbound out of the station at 6:43 is train 2008 from New York to Ronkonkoma. The meat of the rush hour hasn't even started yet. It's not a full rush hour, but it's 90% of it, so it should get pretty busy later on. The walkways from the pedestrian crossing here at the east end of the old platform is closed and barricaded. You can't access that, or the east end of the platform there. The only part of the platform you can access now is the new temporary section, which is well west of the overpass. 647, that was equipment train 4208 from West Side Yard to Hicksville. Yeah, you're looking at the Main Street crossing, which crosses the tracks right east of the tower. And you can see that the street is pretty much closed except for pedestrian traffic. Willis Avenue is still open as a highway crossing just to the east. This should be for train 605, dual mode train from Port Jefferson to New York City, Penn Station. Moving right along. Dual mode units on both ends heading for New York. When do I ever see that train? That MU equipment is heading up to East Williston to make train 1501. It's the only MU train out of East Williston to Penn Station. He'll be going back again in about another 40 minutes. Here comes train 2011, Ronkonkoma, New York at 6:53. That equipment train you saw going up was... That equipment train you saw going up towards East Williston was train 4500. And here, where the Oyster Bay number 2 track crosses over the main line number 1 track, you can see the movable point switches here. 1619, Huntington to Atlantic Terminal. Running west on track number 2 at 7:04. Down right away on 1. That westbound on 1 was train 2401 out of Hicksville to New York. Should have train 607 coming by from Port Jefferson to Long Island City. 607. Quiet 709 en route from Port Jefferson to Long Island City. We see 505 sneaking up to the interlocking and stopping, coming off the Oyster Bay branch at 712. He doesn't have a signal yet. There is train 2303 from Ronkonkoma to New York going over the Willis Avenue crossing. And once he clears, 505 should come down and head for Jamaica. And the Oyster Bay branch, Willis Avenue gates are down. 505 is on his way. Thanks. crossing on the main line and Oyster Bay branch are technically open, but somewhat a bit of a construction and obstructions going on here as well. It's not easy to drive around this town. A lot of activity in that bungalow going on between the branches. It's where the old maintenance away headquarters used to be. That may be the bungalow that houses the remote equipment to remote Nassau. Here comes train 2015, Ronkonkoma to New York at 7:22. Getting the go-ahead through the work site. Westbound on number 2 is train 2403 from Hicksville to New York. The race is on this time of day. They use both tracks for westbound. 728, here comes a rare breed, something you don't usually see. An MU coming off the Oyster Bay branch. This is train 1501, originates in East Williston and heads for Penn Station. The only MU that originates in East Williston, and there's no return train at night. Years ago, there used to be lots of trains out of East Williston with MUs going to both Flatbush Avenue and New York. In 2017 from Ronkonkoma to New York with M9 should be coming pretty soon. Here come the M9s west on 2. Making good use of the Rule 261 here. He's running around train 1501, stopped at Mineola. Train 1623, Huntington, New York. By at 7:37 on number 2 track. He ran around train 1203. He should be coming west on number 1. Train 1623, Huntington, New York. By at 7:37 on number 2 track. He ran around train 1203. He should be coming west on number 1. A lot of employees working around here. This is a massive railroad construction zone these days, especially with the imminent remoting of this tower. Westbound that's coming is train 1205, runs between Hicksville and Penn Station, New York. 2021 from Ronkonkoma to New York at 7:48. And he ran around 1625 from Huntington to Atlantic Terminal. That train has M9s with 9071 as the lead car. Comes 2737 from Spionk to New York. And at 7:54, this is train 1627, Huntington to New York on number 2 track. And coming now, track 1 is being lined for train 507. That runs from Oyster Bay to Long Island City. Train 2023, Ronkonkoma, New York. It's Ronkonkoma to New York by its 7:57. During the morning rush hour, they make better use of using both tracks in the same direction, more so than in the PM rush hour. In the AM rush hour, there's not a lot of eastbound traffic to worry about, but there's much more westbound traffic in the evening rush hour. So you have a limited time that you can use both tracks for eastbound. And our next train up at 7:58 is a train that has a famous number, train number 611, named after the famous N&W 484 steam engine. This runs from Port Jefferson to Hunters Point Avenue. It's a real hotshot. It's non-stop from Huntington to Hunters Point Avenue. In normal times, train 609 runs ahead of it from Port Jefferson to Huntington, but that train was abolished for these current essential scheduling periods. Next up at 8:02 is train 1629 from Huntington to New York with M9s. Looking over the Willis Avenue crossing on the main line, next westbound at 8:06 is train 2703. Runs between Montauk and Long Island City. That used to be the old weekday Cannonball. I believe it had the number 3 back in the day. a busy place. Hard hats everywhere. Considerable railroad reconstruction is going to take place and is taking place around here. For the moment, it's remoting Nassau Tower, which will happen the day after tomorrow. And the gates are going down on the main line at Willis Avenue for train 613. Runs between Port Jefferson and Hunters Point Avenue. Eastbound equipment by at 8:15. First eastbound I've seen in a while. Got a westbound, 2023. I believe it comes from Hicksville, goes to New York. By at 8:16, he's poking along behind 613 just ahead of him. That train was 2025. 2309 is behind him. That's a Farmingdale, New York train. And the operator in the tower just threw the switch for train 512, which is a Jamaica Oyster Bay train. Track switches are open. 509 should be coming down shortly, and we got 512 heading up to Oyster Bay, stopping in Mineola. They should be throwing both switches back now. The eastbound switch was thrown back. He should be throwing the westbound switch back now. Here's 2031 from Ronkonkoma Atlantic Terminal at 8:28. 1631 from Huntington to New York with M9 should be following. Eastbound at 8:33 is train 606. That's a through job from Jamaica to Port Jefferson. And next up at 8:35 is train 1631 from Huntington to New York with M9 cars. And the Willis Avenue gates went down for train 2739. Runs from Spionk to Hunters Point Avenue. And here he comes. Time is 8:39 a.m. It's one of the rare Montauk branch trains that make mainline stops. He stops here. Ronkonkoma, New York at 8:42. From New York to Huntington at 8:46. And we'll stick around for one more train here at Willis Avenue. The gates are going down at 8:50. This is for train 615, the last of the dual mode power train sets. This runs from Port Jefferson to Penn Station. Eastbound equipment, most impressive rush hour, and to think it's only 90% of the full rush hour. So there it is, Nassau Tower. This will undoubtedly be my last glimpse of this tower controlled by a human being locally, a tower operator. Day after tomorrow, it's going to be a remote controlled interlocking controlled by the Jamaica Control Center. This might be the last time I see this tower, period. Once it's remoted, I would think there'd be a greater incentive to demolish the building. We shall see.